So for this segment of What Would the Ancients Say, I'm curious what the ancients would say about the new ways in which the pandemic has forced people to worship. You know, they clearly did not anticipate Zoom. I don't think any of us did 6 months ago. But what would they say about unconventional ways of worship?
Yeah. Yeah, they would be shocked. The idea that people could connect with each other and not be physically present with each other, that would just blow their minds. Um, they did anticipate maybe some of the arguments that people made to allow, for example, a minion of 10 people to join for a prayer service over Zoom, because they had this discussion about what if people are in different rooms of a house and they can't see each other. So you need 10 people. What if there's 6 in this room and there's 3 in that room, and then you have a leader? That would make 10 if you join them together, but if they're separated, then it doesn't. So what's the answer? Is it a minion or is it not? And their answer was, well, if the person in the middle can see and hear both of them,
Mm-hmm.
then they join together and make one minion. So that's the basis on which people are saying that on Zoom, if you can see and hear the other people, that makes it. We're each in our own little doorway, in our own little room, and we're joining together in that way. So their arguments allowed us to have it, but yeah, they would have been shocked by it. I think the thing that would upset them the most is they lived in a very, very face-to-face culture, right? Unmediated. And they saw great virtue in that. They saw in that it's a way for us to have the ability to affect each other, to check each other's behavior. Um, and that's just an incredible loss for them that we wouldn't be face to face. I wonder sometimes because, in the Jewish world, some people have gone in the direction of saying, yes, we can't have services in person, so let's have them online. We'll figure out ways to do it, depending on people's practices around electricity or computers or whatever. You figure this way, you figure that way, we do it. Other people have gone in the direction of saying, you know what, if we can't do it safely, if we can't gather together safely, then everybody should just pray separately. And there was I remember reading about some Orthodox congregations in New York where the rabbis were really trying to get people not to gather to be safe. And they said, we, your rabbis, are going to be praying separately at home. And that's what you should do, because we don't want people gathering. So given that dichotomy and that choice, what would the ancients say was the most important thing? And I think that it depends a lot on the time scale. Right? When we thought this was going to be a thing of a couple weeks or maybe even a couple of months, then maybe saying, okay, communal worship, we'll just stop it for now. People can worship privately, and then we'll come back together when it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're looking at a situation where it could be a year, 2 years, is communal worship ever going to come back exactly the way that it was before? Then I think that the ancients would be feeling like, okay, you got to live in the situation that you're in, and make the adaptations that you have to make because preserving a sense of community, sure, it's hard to do it over the internet, but it's the most important thing. Like, we can't really survive without that. We can't survive without that as Jews. We can't survive without that as human beings. We need to be connected to each other. So if that requires some really creative interpretation of rabbinic texts, that requires doing things very differently than we have done them before. If it requires maybe changing the way we do prayers, certain prayers maybe that we would only say in this situation we don't say, then that's what we have to do, because preserving our connections to each other, that's what it's all about. There's no Jewish life without that. And again, I don't think there's really human life without that. We need to be as creative as we can be. And look, we've been creative enough as humanity to create things like Zoom, that we're talking over right now. If we can be that creative, then we can be creative about how we pray together and connect to each other, and enable us to get through this period.
Well, I, for one, love these Zooms, and they help me stay connected to you, even though we are 100 or so miles apart.
I love it too.